Hello, everybody. My name is Josh Compton, and I am an admissions officer for InnoEnergy Masters Plus. I warmly welcome you to this how-to do's and don'ts for your application video, where we provide you with guidance and tips in order to ensure that your application is as strong and properly filled in as possible. Essentially, we at the admissions office would like to help as many of you as possible to go from being an applicant to being an enrolled student and then a graduate. So this video is designed to help you fill in your application in the best way possible. First of all, let's take a look at the agenda. We'll start off by looking at why this is important before going through a quick how-to. So this will be sort of like a walkthrough, a guide to what goes where in your application, before we move on to looking at do's and don'ts for your application, and then finishing up with some contact details. So why is this important? By filling in your application correctly and following the guidance provided in this video, you will lower the risk of having errors in your application, which will heighten the chances of your application going through. By applying with documentation that does not meet our admissions requirements, you are cutting yourself short to the potential of being admitted with us and beginning your journey with us. This is essentially because if you don't provide the documentation that we require, we're going to have to ask you to provide extra documentation. And if we need to ask you for extra documentation, then there is the eventuality that number one, you may not be able to get hold of that documentation in time, or that number two, there may be miscommunication in some way and you may not provide us with exactly the right documentation. So if you follow these guidelines, then you should be able to provide the right documentation at the point of application. By applying with documentation that doesn't meet the requirements, then what we do is we follow up and ask for any potential missing documents. If you don't have much time to find this documentation, then there may be extra financial costs in order to get things expedited in time. And this may also be a rather stressful situation for you. So we hope that this video can help to reduce any financial burden and any stress for you with any last-minute solutions that you may need to find. And then this in turn will give you more time to prepare for relocation to your year one university. So if you have everything in line when you apply, then in that case, you will not need to be looking for documents at the last minute, and then you have more time to prepare for that relocation. And this will, in general, avoid problems with your application. So we're going to take a quick walk through each application section. Once you start an application, you'll register with your personal details, and then you'll verify your email address, and you should come to a view much like you can see on the left-hand side of the screen here. As you can see on the left-hand side, we have the priorities, the checklist, the profile, home university, and then profile. We're going to kind of take a little walk through some of these sections here on the left-hand side. The priorities is essentially which program or programs you would like to study. As you can see in this example, we have the European Masters in Nuclear Energy. If you wish to apply for two programs, you may do so in rounds 1 to 4, and then in round 5, you can only apply it for one program. If you wish to apply for a second program, then please see the yellow highlighted section here, add more choices. This will then bring up a second program under here. Moving on to the checklist on the right-hand side, then in that case, the checklist is essentially what it says on the tin, a checklist for you to be able to ensure that you have uploaded all of the necessary documents in the right place and that you are fulfilling all of the admissions criteria that we have set out on our website. When you click on each of these, what we call tasks, so we can see sort of these no entry signs here. This is just for my test application, and this is where no documentation has been submitted and no action has been taken. But we can see proof of English language proficiency, previous undergraduate studies, passport. This is just 3 of the 6 tasks that you will see. Once you click on those, you will get some more information and some instructions that you need to follow. I just wanted to highlight the documents section down here at the bottom. We'll talk about this a little bit later on. But if you upload the relevant documentation in the appropriate task section, you do not need to upload the same document in the documents section. That is to say that you only need to upload one document once. Okay. Moving on then, the next two sections are called the home/host university and profile sections. So taking a look at how this looks in the tab, we can see here in this example, I've got the home university here. The home university is the year 1 university, and the host university is the year 2 university. In this example, we can only see home university here because for the European Masters in Nuclear Energy, you can only apply for the year 1 university. But if I had selected, let's say, for example, the Masters in Sustainable Energy Systems, then this tab would show up as home/host university, whereby you select both your year 1 and your year 2 universities with us. When you're selecting the home and host university upon application, the question that you need to ask yourself is, do I fulfill the English requirements for my choice of universities? This is particularly prevalent if you are selecting an English test waiver. If you have an English test that meets all of our requirements, then, that's fine. You can be accepted to all of the universities, but do make sure you read through the instructions, which we'll come on to a little bit later about the English proficiency requirements, to make sure that you fulfill the requirements for your choice of universities. If we look back at the menu again, we now go down from home university to the profile section. The profile section is essentially your ID documentation, who you are. And you'll be surprised to know how many issues or how many applications we get where this information isn't correctly filled in. So if you recall at the top of the video, I said that my name was Josh Compton. In my passport, my full name is Joshua, so I have filled in Joshua here under the given name section, and then Compton in the family name section. If applying with a passport, please ensure that you input your passport number, its issue and expiry dates exactly as they appear on your passport, and then just give it a second check through to make sure you've not made any typos. Here in yellow, you can see that there is an option to apply with an ID card instead of a passport. If it is not clear from your ID card what your ID card number is or when it was issued, then maybe it's best to apply with your passport. Again, just give it a double quick check for typos. The next section I want to discuss quickly with you is the education tab. You may be surprised to know that quite a lot of applications come in with errors in this particular section. And so I want to break it down for you, and I want to just quickly tell you what goes where and how we can avoid some of those problems when we're applying to study with us at InnoEnergy Masters Plus. As you can see on the screen here, we've got what we call a tile of education. If you have studied more than one degree, again, you can insert a new block here, which means that you will then get another tile like this pop up where you can fill in more details. So let's say, for example, you have 2 bachelor's degrees, or you have a bachelor's and a master's degree. You may then have 2 tiles. With these tab options here, move up and move down, this is where you may select which of the tiles comes first. And please make sure that you have the first education as your first tile. So if you received a degree in 2019, for example, and then a second one in 2022, please place the 2019 degree first by moving the degree up. When it comes to the official name of your school/university/institution, this is essentially the name of the institution that is producing your degree certificate. There are many universities that already exist within our database, so you can start typing in the name of your institution, and if it pops up, boom, you can just pop it in, and then that's nice and easy. However, we obviously don't have all of the universities around the world in our database, so if you do find that you've filled in the name of your university and nothing has come up, then you can just click this blue option under here, I did not find my institution from the list, and then you can type it in freehand. The most common issues that we get in this section actually are related to the program name and the awarded qualification/degree. So the program name is the name of the actual program that you've studied. In this example, I've given electrical engineering. It could be power systems engineering, environmental engineering, physics, maths. It's the actual name of the subject that you have studied, the name of the program that you have studied, and at the appropriate level. The awarded qualification / degree is the type of degree that you have been awarded. So have you been awarded a Bachelor of Science, a Bachelor of Engineering, a Bachelor of Technology? Is it just called a bachelor's degree? That's what you fill in here. And sometimes what we see, or quite often what we see, is that these two fields are switched. So just make sure that the name of the program comes first, and then it's the type of the degree that you put second. For those of you who have graduated, you fill in your diploma issue date in this box here. The diploma issue date is not the day that you graduated or any other date. Rather, it is the date that appears actually on your bachelor's degree certificate. So quite often we see a discrepancy in the date here. So just have, when you're applying and you're filling in this field, just have a double check of your degree certificate. Try and see if you can find any such text like diploma issued or date of issue or date of production, something like that. That's the date that goes in this field here. You can then pop in when you started your studies and then when you either have graduated or expect to graduate. This expected graduation is a mandatory field, the country in which you studied, and then this is not mandatory, but it's nice to fill in the language in which you've studied. Again, if you've studied more than one degree, insert new block here, chronologically list your qualifications. If we recall back a little bit earlier on in the video, we were talking about the checklist where you upload certain documents. We're going to take a quick walk through how the proof of English language proficiency task looks and precisely where it is that you upload documents. Again, as I mentioned before, we upload the required documents in each task. So as we have the menu here on the left-hand side, and then these different tasks down here, you remember with the no entry sign I talked about earlier, we click on the specific task, we read the full task instruction, and then select the option that applies specifically to us, upload the necessary document at the end of the task instruction, and by doing so, we then do not need to upload the same document a second time anywhere else in the application. So when you click on the proof of English language proficiency task, this is the view that you will receive. Obviously, this is just a limited view, but once you've opened the task, you can scroll down and you can read the full instructions on the left, and then you can find the right option for you to choose on the right-hand side. As we can see in this example right here, the first description or the first description that we have is for the IELTS academic test. So if you've taken an IELTS academic test, you read through all of the information that is available on the IELTS academic test, you ensure that you fulfill the requirements, and then on the right-hand side, you will scroll down in the task and then click on the IELTS academic test option. Just to give you a quick run through to make sure that we're fulfilling the English proficiency requirements here. For the IELTS academic test, we require an overall band score of at least 6.5 with no section lower than 5.5. So let's say that I took my test 2 months ago. I can see that I have an overall band score of 6.5 and all of my sections are 5.5 or higher. That's perfect. I meet the English proficiency requirements. I'm then going to scroll down on the right-hand side and I'm going to click IELTS academic test and upload my test. If, however, I received a 5.0 or a 4.5 in one of my IELTS academic test sections, that signifies that I do not meet the English proficiency requirements and that I need to retake the test before I apply. As I mentioned before, if you apply with documents that do not meet our requirements, it's just going to stall your application and it increases the chances of your application being rejected. So if we do know that we don't have an English test result that meets our minimum admission requirements, we know that we need to take another test. As we scroll down in the task, if you remember, we have the instructions on the left-hand side, and then we have the options that we can choose on the right-hand side. We can see here in the yellow, this is where we can click to select the file that we wish to upload, or we can drag and drop. So going back to the IELTS academic test option, I would upload here my test report form and then save the task, and then that would be my proof of English language proficiency is submitted. I can move on to the next task. Perfect. Next thing, we're going to move on to some do's for the application. I'm going to walk you through 5 things that we recommend that you do with the application, and then 5 things that we recommend that you do not do for the application. So first of all, do apply as early in the intake as you possibly can. We have 5 application rounds. What we mean when we say apply as early in the intake as you possibly can, we mean that we encourage you to apply in rounds 1, 2, and 3. And the reason being is because some universities become unavailable from round 4. Some even further universities become unavailable from round 5, for round 5. So if you wish to have as many universities as possible to apply for and increase your chances of being admitted, then please apply as early as you can in the intake, preferably rounds 1 and 2. And then obviously, if you miss those, you're welcome to apply in rounds 3, 4, and 5. But just so that you're prepared that if you want to increase your chances of admission, then applying as early as you possibly can will help you with that. Secondly, do submit all of the required documents on time. This is very important. You know, sometimes we see applications where they have selected that they have taken an English test and then there's no test report form or there's no proof that they've taken an English test. If you don't have all of the required documents in a particular application round, you can apply again in the following application round. Another thing is that please be familiar with our website, and every applicant must ensure that you check the country-specific documentation requirements. These are available both on our website and in the application itself as its own separate task. Please make sure that all of you open that country-specific documentation requirements task, you read through, you double check to see if you have studied in any of the affected countries, because there are currently 9 countries that have an extra documentation requirement that you must fulfill if you have studied a bachelor's degree in one of those countries. Number 3, do thoroughly check our English proficiency requirements. Okay, this thing I have touched on before. It's very important because actually not fulfilling the English proficiency requirements is the most common reason why we reject applications. And it's something that is very simple to rectify if we make sure that we understand the English proficiency requirements and we know that the documentation that we're uploading meets those English proficiency requirements. Please only select a waiver if you meet the requirements for it, and information about the English test waivers you can find on our website. As I mentioned again at the top of the session, here at the admissions office, we are here to support you in every step of the way and make this application process as easy for you as possible. So please, when in doubt, just send us an email. If you've got any questions, it's always better to be proactive and send us an email during the application process rather than waiting until you've submitted an application and then receiving an email from us saying, hey, we need X, Y, and Z documents from you. So do be proactive. If you see something on our website that's confusing or you need a bit of sort of clarification on how things are structured, then just send us an email. We're super happy to help. And then finally, do read our website, do read the acceptance letter, and do read our email communications carefully. I like to say that you should know our website like the back of your hand in the application process. If you do so, then that means that you really understand what it is, what it is we need to see from you in the application process. It means that you understand exactly which programs best suit not only your academic profile, but where you wish to take yourself with this education. And just to highlight again, to read our email communications carefully, we find that quite a lot of people, when we send email communications about missing documents, we find that we don't receive any newly uploaded documents and we don't receive any further email communication from them. So do keep your eyes peeled on your inbox during the application period. You know, check your spam box if you've not received anything. And if you have any questions, again, do please reach out to us because we're super happy to help. Now moving on to what we should not do, the don'ts of the application how to. Do not wait until the round's deadline to apply. Of course, we can apply at whichever point in the application round that we wish, whether that's the first day, in the middle, towards the end. The reason why we recommend you not to wait until the round's deadline is because not only do we have a very high quantity of applications that come in the last 24 hours, but what happens if you apply at the last minute is that you have much less time to be able to collect any supplementary documentation that we may wish to have from you. So if you apply in the early section of the round at the beginning, it means that you have essentially almost the whole of the rest of the time that the round is open to apply for, plus a little bit of extra time where we do those checks in order to provide us with any documentation that we've asked for. Number two, do not focus too much on the CV or additional letters and qualifications. These documents are essentially supporting to your application. They should help fill in the gaps. They should help provide a little bit more of sort of like a well-rounded overview of your profile, but they're not really the key aspects to your CV. What we're looking at is mostly your academic attainment and of course your working profile, but we're not looking at all of the nitty-gritty of all of the work experiences you've had. Rather, a CV should be a maximum of 2 sides of A4. It should be concise and it should be tailored to precisely your application for the programs for which you wish to apply. Just to give you a very brief example, if you're creating your CV and you're including sort of lots of different work experiences that aren't really relevant to your application, then maybe we could take a bit of an internal questioning to ourselves and ask ourselves whether or not that is the right information to put on the CV. Because the more we tailor our CV, the better the chance it is that it's going to catch the attention of the program steering committees, and it's going to show precisely what skills you have that will not only allow you to succeed during your study time with us, but also contribute something to our community and also strengthen essentially your future. Number three, do not select an English test waiver that does not fit your background. Please make sure that if you are selecting an English test waiver, again, that you meet the requirements for this. Yeah, it really is very simple. Unfortunately, we don't have any legroom to make any exceptions, or we can't just bypass the regulations that we have in place. So if you are applying for an English test waiver when you do not fulfill the requirements for one, then we will have to ask you for an English test, and then you're going to have to book a test, take the test, get the results, upload the results. That's quite a long period of time that also may lead to your application being rejected for that round. Good news is you can apply in a future round, but if you just make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row when applying, then it just means that you maximize your potential of your application going through and being welcomed to come and study with us. Number four, if you have studied under the French-speaking classe préparatoire system or the English-speaking national diploma / higher national diploma system, please make sure that you are supplying us with the transcript and the leaving certificates from those, as well as your bachelor's degree. Studying just classe préparatoire or just a higher national diploma, unfortunately, is not enough to gain admission in most cases. You also need to build upon that with a bachelor's degree. Please make sure you just upload all of the appropriate documentation. Again, if you don't do so, then we're going to have to ask you for that, and then that increases the chances of your application not going through. Finally, just to reiterate, it's not necessary to upload the same document several times. This I've touched on before. But then something else that I want to bring to the forefront really is that sometimes we see that applicants upload a sort of 60-page long PDF, which is a very sort of lengthy booklet, very overarching and very thorough, informative booklet about the program that they've studied. The information about the program that you've studied will be included in your transcript. So therefore, it is not necessary for you to upload such booklets or info sheets. If we do require any further information from you, we'll ask you for it. So anything that kind of goes beyond the realms of what is included in our documentation requirements, you can just leave that one out. And so to finish off, we'll just quickly look at some contact details. So if you've got any further questions, you can just drop us a line through several different channels. First of all, if you have any admissions related questions, these are best directed to us at the InnoEnergy Masters Plus Admissions Office. You can reach us on admissionsoffice@innoenergy.com. If you have any questions that are more sort of program, funding, finance related, then these are best directed to our student advisors, and you can contact them on innoenergy@studyinquiry.com. You can phone them on the number that you see on the screen, and then you can also send them a WhatsApp message, also with the number that you can see. Finally, if you have any questions that are more sort of university or study life related, then these questions are best directed to the student ambassadors. You can come into contact with them by going onto our website. You can book a one-to-one call with them, or you can click directly, as you can see in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. You've got these sort of blue tiles that you can find on our website, and you can start a chat directly with one of our student ambassadors. Again, I just want to reiterate, please do get in touch if you've got any questions. We are super happy to help you, and no question is a silly question. And it's always best to ask the question and then do things right, as opposed to waiting until you get asked for example, further documentation or anything like that. So thank you very much for listening. We look forward to receiving your application and hopefully to seeing you next year. Again, if you've got any questions, do just drop us a line. We're super happy to help. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.